YouTube, how's it going? The GOAT House is back with some more NFL free agency coverage. A lot of moves being made in the NFL already, and free agency hasn't even started. Getting excited. But for this video, this is the best player slash fit and also realistic signing for every single team. It's not a predictions video. You know, some of these guys I'm actually predicting to go to these teams, but I'm taking every NFL team and, in my opinion, giving you the best fit and best player they realistically can get, if that makes sense. I hope it does. This was a fun video to make, you know, identifying who's the best fit and who these teams possibly can get. We have prediction videos on the channel already, plenty of them, player by player, more to come. And just before free agency gets going there, we got a few more we want to get to. We also got NFL draft coverage, a lot of stuff here at the GOAT House. And there's our Twitter, Instagram, constantly talking on the Twitter and always have posts on the Instagram, so check us out there. We have a fan-voted mock draft going on the Twitter. You guys vote. You guys make the pick. A lot of fun. We're going to go division by division here. We'll start with the AFC East. The Patriots, to me, is Golden Tate. Yeah, there's probably some better players they can get out there, and this isn't talking about their own guy. You know, they would like to have Trey Flowers, Trent Brown back, but you know, this is talking about, you know, going outside, getting somebody else's player, you know, another available free agent. So a realistic one and one that would make sense. Golden Tate would be perfect in the Patriots offense. They need receivers bad. Probably their biggest need, honestly, you know. So I like Golden Tate here. I think it's realistic. I actually picked Golden Tate to go to the Patriots. Some of the other guys are picking him to go elsewhere. So it should be pretty interesting. You know, it's possible they can get Trey Flowers back and get Golden Tate. Maybe they'll lose Trent Brown, but we will see. That's my pick for the Patriots. Next up, we got the Dolphins. Trey Flowers. We just talked about him. You know, he's a perfect fit for the Dolphins, and it makes sense, too, because Brian Flores, coming from the Patriots, he was the defensive coordinator, so he coached Trey Flowers. He knows what he's capable of, and he fits the defense perfectly, obviously, and that's what they've been lacking. You know, they need D-line in general, D-ends, D-tackles. They're clearing some space, so it's realistic, very realistic. Maybe their biggest need between D-end, D-tackle, and obviously he fits. So it makes a ton of sense. I believe they will go for him. You know, I think the Patriots would like him back. We have a video on Trey Flowers. Go check it out. We talk about other teams that make sense for fits and potentially where he can go. So check that out. Moving on, we got the Bills. I got Darrell Williams. You know, maybe not the most appealing signing for Bills fans. They probably want somebody, you know, a bigger name. You know, maybe if they move on from LaShawn McCoy, Le'Veon Bell makes sense. But this one's a great fit to me. Great fit, and they're already known to be interested in him. The Bills and the Giants are the two teams I'm expecting more. But he plays right tackle. He's a true right tackle. The Bills need a right tackle. They also need a right guard. And what a great way. You know, if you can go fill this need and then go into the draft getting a top receiver, you could also get Jawan Taylor if he's there. But, you know, maybe he can play right guard too. So I think it's just a perfect fit, and it fills a need. You can go into the draft with not having to reach for a need. To me, it just makes a lot of sense. It's a great fit, and it's very realistic. Moving on. The Jets, Le'Veon Bell, of course. They need a running back pretty badly. He fits their offense, and I think they have the cap space, and they will be offering for him. You know, will he go there? It's up in the air. I keep switching my teams where I think he's going to go. You know, one day I'm thinking the Bucs, but then their cap space goes down. The Raiders and the Jets have the cap space, so do the Niners, but does he want to go to any of those teams? Possibly. The Chiefs may be in the market, so it's going to be very interesting to see where Le'Veon Bell goes. You know, I really like him for the Jets, but we'll see if they land him. It's definitely a fit, and it's definitely realistic, in my opinion. Moving on, we'll go to the NFC East. The Cowboys, Adrian Amos, I think makes a ton of sense for me because they don't have a whole bunch of needs. They could use some D linemen, but Amos fits perfectly, in my opinion. You know, the people are talking about free safety. They need a free safety, Earl Thomas. No, I don't think they do. You know, I think they can use more of a strong safety. I think that they'll really like Amos in their defense. You know, I think he's pretty underrated. Yeah, he's only had one really good year, but he's had some solid years. You know, I think he's underrated. And it kind of came out the Cowboys don't want to pay Earl Thomas or Landon Collins. So I think for a few million less at least, I think they would rather have Amos all day. It's a fit. It makes sense. It's very realistic to me. Let's see if they do it. You know, again, not a predictions video. I think it's very possible. We'll see if they do it. I know the Bears will want him back. I know the Broncos will be interested. The Texans could be a wild card. Let's move on to another NFC East team. That's the Eagles, and it's Le'Veon Bell. You know, right now it doesn't look super realistic. You know, I was thinking about putting Tevin Coleman up here, but, you know, the dream scenario is Le'Veon Bell, and it's somewhat realistic because they're trying to trade Michael Bennett. You know, if they can't trade him, maybe they cut him. Nelson Aguilar has been rumored they could trade him, maybe cut him. I don't know if they actually cut him, but a couple other guys, they can make the room here to get Le'Veon Bell. And remember, they don't have to pay Nick Foles now too, so letting him hit the free agency market. So, maybe not as realistic as some of the other ones up here, but I still think realistic, and it's definitely, I'm trying to find the best guy that is somewhat realistic here. So it's possible. We'll see if it happens. Maybe Tevin Coleman's an option. The Redskins, to me, Landon Collins is the best fit here. Now that they got Keenum, I was talking about Foles here. They traded for Keenum last night. Landon Collins, I think, fits their defense. They need two safeties, really, but I think he fits. It's a type of safety the Redskins been, always had and always looking for. And I think he's a better version of Swearinger, which, they liked his play, but obviously had to cut him for different reasons. But Landon Collins, I think, is an upgrade there in that safety position. He's a guy that's could roam around. He's not the best deep, but he's able to roam around. So they need another guy to pair with him. But to me, that's what the Redskins like from their safeties. So they will like Landon Collins. I expect an offer if they have the cap space available. The Giants to me is Earl Thomas. They could use a number of things. They can use help on the right side of the line. Could be Darrell Williams, but they need a safety pretty badly. They need two of them, really. So I think Earl Thomas is a possibility. They traded Olivier Vernon now just a little bit ago, so they cleared a little bit of cap, but they brought in a player as well. So, it's definitely realistic, and it's definitely a big need. We'll see if they get the job done. Moving on. The Ravens, Tyrann Mathieu. They're already rumored to be interested for him to place Eric Weddle, and I think he fits this defense so much. He's, kind of like an Eric Weddle type player, younger. I think Eric Weddle's a little better on the deep passes, but Tyrann Mathieu will be, he'll be able to do so much in this defense. It's a very well-coached defense, a lot of playmakers on that defense. I would love him, in that defense. So I think it's realistic. It makes a lot of sense. I think he fits. This is probably the best fit, the Ravens. I think out of any team, he can go to the Bucs, he can go back to the Texans. He fits better with the Ravens, in my opinion. Let's see if that actually happens. I know he has connections with the Bucs and obviously the Texans. That was just his team. So we'll see. Next up's the Steelers. Maybe not super realistic because maybe the Ravens don't want to let him get to a division rival, their biggest rival. But C.J. Mosley and the Steelers, he fits perfectly. Similar defense the Ravens run. And they've been trying to find a middle linebacker. They value the position. They just haven't had the chance to get their hands on a new middle linebacker. And C.J. Mosley, it's my opinion, is the third best in football. That's behind two greats in Bobby Wagner and Luke Kuechly. So the Steelers would love to have him. Maybe not on the super high realistic side, but maybe if they get rid of Antonio Brown, they trade him. They have a lot of cap space. Maybe they make an offer that the Ravens just feel they can't, offer there. So we'll see. Moving on, the Browns, to me, is Anthony Barr. They trade for Vernon. I didn't like Vernon's year last year with the Giants, but they run a 3-4. The Browns run a 4-3. He fits a 4-3 better, in my opinion. So I think he can be good with rotating with Ogba, opposite of Myles Garrett, obviously. And Myles Garrett's the guy. So who can replace Jamie Collins? Anthony Barr is a better version of Jamie Collins. Both strong side. Both can get after the quarterback if you need him to, if you want to send him on a blitz. Anthony Barr can cover pretty well, too. And it's going to cost some money, but the Browns have the cap room. He wants to play West Coast, so I don't know if this happens, but it makes a ton of sense to me here if the Browns go for Anthony Barr, which I imagine they'll definitely make an offer. The Bengals, Kwon Alexander makes a ton of sense here. They need linebackers in general, and I think Alexander's a great fit on that defense. Maybe the Bucs want him back, but coming from there, going to the Bengals, I think it makes a lot of sense. You can plug him in the middle there. I think you can honestly play outside too, but I really like this. I think this is a very realistic one too. There hasn't been a lot of news on Kwon Alexander. I'm leaning towards, we haven't really talked about him a lot either. I think either the Bucs or the Bengals, really. And the Bucs are low on the cap space. I really like the Bengals for Kwon Alexander. Let's see if they do it. The Bears, Justin Houston, not officially a free agent yet, but we expect him to be 100% a free agent available. The Bears, Justin Houston, makes a lot of sense. They need another pass rusher. It's very important to have a rotation. Yeah, they have two guys worthy of start. Obviously, Khalil Mack's one of the best in football. Leonard Floyd, I think, is pretty solid. People will say we can get better in that position. True, and you can get better in the rotation. That's kind of what the Bears were lacking. They didn't have a big rotation in that edge rush position. And Justin Houston makes a lot of sense. They may be able to get him a little cheaper than people might think because, the Bears are a contender because of their defense. Maybe he wants to join that, familiar face with Nagy there, even though Nagy was in control of the offense. But it makes a lot of sense to me. Vikings, Trent Brown from the Patriots. He can play left tackle for them. I think too expensive for them to maybe get. It depends on what other teams offer. But he hasn't had too many super good years. And, when you see guys go to the Patriots, they dominate, especially on the offensive line. And then they can't really do it anywhere else. So it's a possibility. So maybe he won't get as much money as we think. But if that's true, you would think he would go back to the Patriots. But I think the Patriots are confident whatever lineman they have in there, they will be able to produce the same kind of skill there, play level. So the Vikings would love to have him. I think they're pretty good on the right side. They need more on the left side. So we'll see if they'll be able to. They'll make an offer. They'll make an offer. And they have Reef at left tackle. They may move him to left guard if they get a guy like this. They'll make an offer. We'll see if they can actually land him. The Packers, Zadarius Smith makes a ton of sense. Not getting a lot of talk. People expect him back to the Ravens. But maybe they have to focus on C.J. Mosley and they want Tyrann Mathieu. Zadarius Smith, the Ravens are another team. Maybe they're confident they can develop any pass rusher they got. They got some pretty good depth everywhere too. So the Packers need, I think, a couple edge rushers. Zadarius Smith makes sense as an outside linebacker in their 3-4. I think they'll make an offer. They can make an offer to a bunch of guys. D4, maybe they'll try to trade for him. We will see. Moving on. Trey Flowers is brought back here for the Lions. Makes a lot of sense. They got the Patriots connection to it. Matt Patricia. He fits their defense perfectly. He can play opposite of Okwara. They have Deshaun Hand, too, who can actually slide inside if they need him to. So a very unique defense. I like it a lot there. Trey Flowers, they'll be able to make a good offer on him, too. Let's see if they get the job done. Next is the Texans. People are talking about defensive backs for the Texans, and they have the cap space to get a top defensive back. But Sue makes a lot of sense. And Dominican Sue, they haven't had a really good nose tackle next to J.J. Watt, playing right alongside of him in a while. Sue makes a lot of sense. They can pay him. I'm surprised there hasn't been talk on this because I really like it. I think he can go to a number of teams. We still got to do a Sue video. I think he can go a number of teams. I think the Texans makes a lot of sense. Not saying that's where I'm predicting him to go, but it makes a lot of sense. They should definitely look into that. The Colts, Tyrell Williams, they're high on him, and I think it makes sense. They need a receiver like this, but I really like the fit. That's why he's on here. The Colts can get a number of guys. They can get some top defensive talent too. But, they like Dontrell Inman, who's a similar style receiver, actually came from the same team. Tyrell Williams is a little better, obviously. So I think it's just an upgrade at that spot. They can also look to the draft. But I think it's very realistic that the Colts end up with Tyrell Williams. I know the Raiders and the Browns are looking at him. They're very high on him as well. Tennessee Titans. Preston Smith, I love this fit here. He's not getting a lot of talk either. He would play outside linebacker in that 3-4. And, yeah, there's some other guys that can be, according to their sack numbers, people will say they're better. But I think Preston Smith's an excellent fit in Vrabel's defense. They have Harold Landry on one side, who's like an outside pass rusher. And Preston Smith can after the quarterback, but he can also stop the run. You're kind of worried about those outside linebackers stopping the run for the Titans, but you wouldn't be worried with this. I think he's a perfect guy opposite of Harold Landry, who I'm also high on. So this is just a fit that just makes a ton of sense for me. I would be surprised if the Titans didn't go for this. I really like this. We'll see if it happens. I'm not saying it happens, but I think they make an offer. I think, the top two teams for him I'm looking at are the Redskins and the Titans. We'll see. Very interesting player here. I think he's very underrated. Next up, the Jags, Nick Foles. Pretty obvious. They need a quarterback. He fits what they're trying to do. They got DeFilippo on there. He's very good with quarterbacks. So I think it makes a ton of sense. And, I would say that brings it back in the contending conversation. I have been saying that. They're releasing all kinds of defensive talent right now. So we'll see what they do. I guess they got to clear the space for him. But this is very realistic and the best possible guy they can get, in my opinion. The Saints is someone that's not really being talked enough for the Saints. Really, the Saints in general aren't being talked enough for free agency. Landon Collins makes a lot of sense here. The Saints don't have a bunch of huge needs. They can really go out and get one guy here outside their team in Landon Collins. I think he'd be great next to Marcus Williams. Reason I liked Marcus Williams a lot as a prospect because he had a lot of experience playing pretty much center field by himself back there. So Landon Collins is free to do what he wants here, and that's what he's good at. He's not really good deep downfield. So this makes a lot of sense to me. Let's see if it actually happens. The Saints should give it a try. Not a lot of talk on the Saints this offseason, mainly because they don't have a first-round pick, but no talk about them in free agency, which is odd. Next up, we got the Panthers. Trey Flowers being brought up again. They need pass rush. Trey Flowers, I think, fits their defense. Maybe they got to clear a little more cap room, but if they do, they would definitely be in the market for Trey Flowers. I definitely like that a lot. We got the Falcons, and Sue's being brought back up. There's talk about they need another D tackle next to Grady Jarrett. I agree, but they need a specific type of guy. They need a guy that is a D tackle, but then also can play that nose tackle position, because Grady Jarrett's not really that nose guy. So they've been kind of looking for that guy, and Sue makes a lot of sense. Now he's got some nose tackle experience under him. He was originally just a D tackle. Makes a lot of sense. Could do multiple things in that position. Next to Grady Jarrett, I keep saying it, but it makes a ton of sense. It's just they got to go for this. Not a lot of talk on that, but they got to go for it. 24, the Bucs. Yes, Le'Veon Bell. They're going to need to clear some space, but they are already rumored to be interested in Le'Veon Bell. They're going to cut Deshaun Jackson. We'll get some space. There could be more ways to create more. I expect some moves, maybe some surprise moves to some people for the Bucs. Maybe they do end up cutting Gerald McCoy, even though so they're going to bring him back. A couple other guys, Pierre-Paul had a great season, but does he fit their new defense? So it's going to be very interesting. The Chiefs, to me, is Earl Thomas. There's been some Le'Veon Bell talk, but to me, they're fine on offense. Yeah, you can't be afraid to get better, but if you got to spend your money wisely. You got to make this defense better. That was the reason they didn't take that next step to the Super Bowl. Get a guy like Earl Thomas. They're supposed to have the space to do something like this because, Justin Houston on the way out. Maybe they trade D4. Don't really agree with that, but it's possible here, and it should be looking at a guy like Earl Thomas. Next team is the Chargers. Sheldon Richardson makes all kinds of sense for me. This is one, I don't know if they go for it, though. It's realistic because they need the position, and they may go for it. But what I'm thinking is that D tackle in front of Melvin Ingram. If you didn't know, Bosa on one end, Ingram on the other side. Bosa plays on the line. Hand in the dirt. He's a 4-3 on Ingram. He has a lot of freedom. He does what he they have him do all kinds of different things. He's a lot of times he's off the ball, unlike Bosa on the other side. So to me, it makes more sense that the D tackle in front of Ingram, is a more athletic guy because there's no one on the line on the end. Sheldon Richardson has experience playing 3-4 end. He has experience playing 3 technique in the 4-3. It makes a ton of sense. They need a more athletic guy in that spot, which they haven't had. Maybe they don't want that guy. Maybe they just haven't had the chance to get that athletic guy. So this makes a ton of sense to me. It's what they should do. I'm not going to tell Gus Bradley what to do because he's a very smart defensive mind. But this makes a lot more sense to me. I want them to go do this. And the Vikings are my team. I want Sheldon Richardson back. But, it'd make me feel good about the Chargers. It'd make a lot of sense. It would get me hyped about the Chargers here because it makes a ton of sense here. The Broncos, Adrian Amos, second team he's involved with. I think he plays strong safety for them. Makes a lot of sense. It's what they need. A couple other things. Vic Fangio's there, the Bears defense coordinator from last year. This makes sense because of that. It makes sense because they need a strong safety. And they just cut Darian Stewart. Why? Maybe because they're planning on getting this strong safety in Adrian Amos. Makes a lot of sense. I would keep an eye on the Broncos for Adrian Amos. Also the Bears. Also the Cowboys. Possibly the Texans would be the wild card. Raiders, Anthony Barr being brought back up, and this makes a ton of sense to me because it's a need, but they have a bunch of needs, and Anthony Barr fits their defense. He can do many things for them, blitz, cover, and what makes a lot of sense for this, when they have the cap space, that makes sense too, but what makes a ton of sense is you could say, well, we can just draft one. If you're a Raiders fan, we can just draft one. It's very true, but the 3 first-round picks, where they're placed, isn't really a linebacker, in the running for those placements there. Pick 4, possibly Devin White, maybe a little bit of a reach though. And then you got pick 24 and 27. You're definitely too late for Devin White. You're most likely too late for Devin Bush. You could say we can trade up, we can trade back. Very true. You can't really predict that right now. Even if you have a good feeling, it's really hard. They'll know that in the front office. So this is what you do. You go and get a proven guy too. Let's not miss that. A proven guy to take the spot, and we can just focus on the other things that make sense. With the 4th pick, you can get Josh Allen or Quinn Williams, whoever's there. And with the other picks, you can go receiver, you can go running back, you can go interior D-line, or back to the pass rush position, opposite of what you took with the earlier pick. Makes a ton of sense to me. In the linebacker class, it's pretty good early, but there's some spots, there's some gaps, and then it kind of falls off as you get going. So this makes a lot of sense. I'm starting to, my original prediction for the Anthony Barr was the Chargers, but I'm starting to lean towards the Raiders now. I think the Browns would be in the market for him too. Possibly the Rams would be the wild card. The Rams, here's the Rams. C.J. Mosley, maybe the Ravens don't let him go. The Rams have more cap space than you think. A little surprising. It's very impressive. So they can do it here. They won't be able to do too many moves outside of this, but they can do it. They've been lacking that middle linebacker. They released Mark Barron. They've been missing. They need two of them too, really. And Mosley is that top-tier linebacker they're missing out. They don't really value position, so maybe they don't do it, but this would be something. It would make that defense. It would take that defense to the next level. The Seahawks, Roger Saffold. Sweezy is a free agent. Roger Saffold, perfect fit right there. It makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah, they can use another edge rusher next to Frank Clark. Yeah, they can use a D tackle. I'm good with their young safeties. They got, I think 3 safeties with Flowers. They got Tedrick Thompson, and they got Delano Hill. I'm good with that. They played pretty good last year. You could get better, but people are talking about, some of those free agent safeties. I think this makes a lot of sense. Earlier last year, everyone was surprised how improved the offensive line was. So was I. It was much improved. It was very impressive. But then, as the season went on, it kind of went back to its old ways. Not quite that bad. It wasn't really bad, but it wasn't as good as the earlier in the season. So you got to make sure this offensive line is good to go complete. Roger Saffold is very impressive left guard. I think they'll make an offer for him too. The Niners, back to Earl Thomas. They have the money. People, talking about the wild card will be Le'Veon Bell. It's a possibility. That secondary is pretty rough last year. I expect the corners to be pretty good. I like their corner duo. They can use some rotation guys, maybe a slot guy. They need a safety like Earl Thomas in there. They have the cap to do it, so why not? And we're on to the last one. It's the Cardinals, and I like Ziggy Ansah for the Cardinals a lot. Makes a lot of sense in that defense. Vance Joseph's defense. He's got the experience of moving guy. He's kind of one of those guys that, is he a 4-3 end? Is he a 3-4 outside linebacker? Good thing is he can do both as long as he's healthy. I think he'll be good at Vance Joseph there on that defense. You can give him a 1, or I think they can afford to give him a 2-year deal here, prove it. But if he's healthy, we know he can get to the quarterback. I like him opposite of Chandler Jones. That way you can draft. If you do want to draft Kyler Murray first, you don't have to worry about missing out on that elite pass rusher of the draft. So Ziggy Ansah makes a lot of sense for the Cardinals to me. Let's see if they go and do it. So again, a lot of these, I'm not predicting a lot of these to happen. I think I'm predicting them to go for these guys. A lot of these, I would expect offers to be made by these teams to a lot of these guys. To me, it's just the best possible fit that's also somewhat realistic. So hopefully everyone understood that. That's going to do it for this one. We got plenty of free agency predictions on the channel already, plenty of NFL draft content. Free agency is just getting started, so a lot more coverage to come. Please click that like button, notification button if you can. Clicking that subscribe button if you haven't quite yet would help us get to our 20K subscriber goal. That'd be much appreciated if you can help us out. That's going to do it for this one. Thanks, everyone, for their support. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.